Okay, let's get started. Meanwhile, people will uh, be joining us. So thank you very much, first of all, for joining us in this new webinar from what we call Nuclia RAC Academy. And today we are going to talk about AI agents in RAC, which is probably a topic that most of you have heard at some point, not AI agents specifically in RAC, but the concept of AI agents. And we decided that it would be a good topic to explain more, to dig deeper on what agents meant in a RAC pipeline, and to also explain what agents are and what agents basically are not. So today we are going to we are going first of all to introduce ourselves. We are going to have together with me Eric. I will introduce him in minutes. We are going to very briefly explain again what RAC is for the ones of you that might not be familiar with the concept. We are going also, because this is the purpose of the webinar, to talk about AI agents and try to explain what exactly AI agents are. Explain the concept of AI agents, how is applied in RAC, in retrieval augmented generation. And we are also going to demo you what agents are, going from the buzzwords that you might read in LinkedIn posts or in some videos. So we are going to go from those concepts that we are getting about AI agents to the real world and see how we can basically implement real agents in production ready products. And also we would love to have some Q&As. So we are going to make sure to have some room for you to ask questions or to add any topic or put anything on the table that you think it's relevant for the webinar. So as a way of introduction, my name is Raudal. I'm the CEO here at Nuclia. And even if it seems that I'm 15 years old, this is not the case, but I have 15 years, sorry, in the search industry. And together with me, we have Eric Briholt. Eric is based in France. I'm based in Barcelona. And Eric is our developer advocate. And in that case, yeah, he has more than 25 years experience in the search industry. So we are lucky because we will be able to get his wisdom and point of views. So again, we are here to talk about AI agents in RAC, but maybe, as I said at the beginning, it would be good to try to explain what RAC is in a very easy words. So, Eric, I know that this is a tricky question, but let me ask you, and let's try if you can help us. How you would define RAC? So if your mom would come to you as an example and ask you, Eric, please explain me what RAC is, how you would explain?
Sure. So first, obviously, you need to understand what generative AI is. So it starts with some technical stuff anyway. But yeah, if you know ChatGPT, almost all of you know about it, I guess. That's a model, a system which is trained to produce language, right? So you can ask a question, get an answer. And what the LLM is using to do so is the information it has been trained with, okay? So it can be trained with massive amount of information, like basically everything which is on internet could be used, and you end up with something which is kind of accurate. The problem there is you do not control exactly where the LLM is getting his information from. You are asking a question and you will phrase an answer which is the most probable one. So most likely to be done after your question, going to be this answer. Okay. The problem there is first it can be trained with data which is obsolete, obviously. And also, if you want to use an LLM in a business context, like to make customer support, for example, you want to be sure that the LLM is using information about your own product, not a random product from the competition, obviously. And that's where RAG comes in. RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. It means that first you have a step retrieving data from a database however you want. You just get this data and you're going to ask the LLM, okay, this is the information you get to answer this question. Do not try to use anything else than just that. And that way we are just using the ability to speak in English or in any other language of the LLM, not its knowledge that we do not control. That way we control the information source and we get a properly phrased answer thanks to the LLM. So we escape the problem of hallucination or uncontrolled data. That's what it is.
So thank you, Eric. So if I understand what you mean, basically RAC, it means taking a set of data that you want to get answers from and just use LLMs on top of that data to make sure the answer you get, it's only from that specific set of data. So
that's
great.
Exactly that, yeah.
Great. So now that we understand a bit what RAC means, let's jump into the topic of the webinar, which is how AI agents can be applied on RAC. But let's start with what AI agents are. So maybe there is some myth versus reality in here. And I will start by explaining what AI agents are not. So AI agents are not malicious AI bots that will run the world. So let's just state this and let's make clear that AI bots are not yet, at least, going to take the world. They are something completely different. So again, Eric, if I have to ask to you if you can explain me what an AI agent is, how you would answer to this?
Well, it's just a small program. It's just a program that will achieve a task using AI. The fact we call it agent means that it's not a tool that the user control from his phone or his laptop. It's just something autonomous that's going to run by itself and make some processing for you silently, let's say. That's all it is. Nothing dangerous so far.
Great. So it's a way to automate tasks at the end on behalf of humans, as an example. It's a process that runs. Yeah. Great. So we understand RAC. We understand that AI agents are not malicious bots. They are completely different thing. They are specific pieces of software that run specific tasks, mainly on behalf of humans. So let's try to understand how those agents run inside a RAC pipeline. So before Eric was explaining that RAC is basically getting answers from a specific set of data, making sure that the answer is only from that set of data. And if you want to build a RAC pipeline, things are a bit more complicated, obviously. You have different steps. The steps in a RAC pipeline are the ones that you can see here in the slide. They are mainly 5 different steps, going from the data that you need, so the data upload and the data that you want to index, the way you store the data when you index that specific information, the way you search and retrieve what is relevant to answer a specific query, and then take that specific information that is relevant to answer a query to send it to a language model to get the power of the generation of the language model, so you get an output, you get an answer. In that specific pipeline, in that end-to-end process that we are covering here, that at the end, this is what RAC pipeline is, there are 2 different places in which you can apply agents. So basically, those 2 areas are agents that can be applied at ingestion time. So once we start indexing data, we can apply agents in here that later we are going to explain what you can do, what you can achieve with ingestion agents. So we have agents that help us on indexing the data in a better way to then at retrieval time, we can get the other agents, which are called retrieval agents, which they are meant to do totally different actions. And those are the 2 main areas in which you can apply agents in a RAC pipeline, at ingestion time and at retrieval and output time. So, Eric, it would be good if you can explain us a bit better the ingestion agents. Why are they important, and what you can achieve if we use agents at ingestion time?
Sure. So when you are ingesting your information. You have the original information, which is the reference, let's say, and you might consider that all the knowledge is there and there is no point in changing it in any way because whatever question your user going to ask, this information is already there, which is true. The only problem there is that the RAG approach is about matching some part of the content you've been providing, some text block somewhere based on semantic score, and use this to produce an answer. And unfortunately, by doing so, you might not get exactly the information you want. So even though the information you're collecting to answer the question is semantically very accurate according to the question, in some cases, it's useful to have more than that. And typically, you might consider using a summary of the entire content as extra information to give more context. So the user is asking something super specific, which is actually part of such page of your document, but without the rest, without the context, which was not mentioned in the user question, you would do something not that good as an answer. So that's where it's important to be able to retrieve more than just what has been matched semantically. And this information, typically a summary, can be generated as ingestion time. So that's the kind of stuff your agent can do for you, summarizing a content. But much more than that, you can also classify automatically things for filtering reasons. So if you want your system to be able to filter depending on whatever kind of criteria, you need those labels to be set on your content. If this information is pre-existing, you have no problem. But if it's not, and if it should be extracted from an unstructured content, it's kind of painful for human to do so. And that's where an agent can help you. It can also extract a lot of other information. I will mention a few of them. So for example, generating automatically question and answer based on the content, so that could help people to be guided when asking question. That you can say, are you asking this or that, etc. You can also extract concepts, what we call a knowledge graph. So connection between different contexts and the ability to query that. You need to extract this information at some point, and that's what an agent can do for you. Other tasks like typically detecting unsafe content that you want to make sure your user will not be exposed to, detecting also LLM security issues like injection that you want to avoid. This kind of stuff can be automated thanks to ingestion agents.
Thank you, Eric. So that's great to know that at ingestion time, we can basically enhance the way we index the data to make sure that we get the auto classification that we would like to know to get, or we can build our own knowledge graph at the end based on our own name entities, as an example. But then once we have the data in the database, once we have once we have gone through the pre-processing pipeline and we have the data in the database, in the storage layer, we need to use that data. And using that data, it means that we are when a user is querying something, we are understanding what the user is asking for, and we go to the database to gather what you explained at the beginning, the right context to answer the question. But also at retrieval time, we can apply different agents that can help really a lot on performing other tasks. As an example, a very typical use case of building an agent at retrieval time is the availability to improve the query of the user. So sometimes users want to ask a question, they need an answer, but they really don't know how to answer a question. So we can have agents that at query time understands the user intent, and behind the scenes, it improves the way the user is asking a question, so we can go better to the storage layer, to the database, to retrieve what it might be relevant for the user. We have other kind of agents that, in case of a very complex questions, they can generate reasoning, so they can answer better the questions of the user. So as an example, specific questions about complex financial topics or complex law topics, they might require reasoning to answer a question. So reasoning agents are agents that are able to not only understand what the user is asking for, but also divide the question in sub-questions, so they can get the answers from those other questions generated on top of the original question to provide the answer the user is requiring. Other agents, also at retrieval time, are those kinds of agents that are able to recommend what the user, recommend topics, recommend content, as an example. This would be very useful, for example, in e-commerce. So being able to recommend based on what the user is looking for, specific products, not based on colors or based on specific product lines, but based on the specifications on the product itself. Those would be other kind of agents. And we also have here what we call the multitask agents. So those are agents that are able to complete multiple tasks in a sequence of events. So most of you in your companies, you might have different workflows, internal workflows, that to complete those workflows, you need access to information. So you could build those multitask agents to complete the tasks that a human should do, but using agents and understanding that those agents are using the information that you have in the company. So as we've seen, we have the ingest agents and the retrieval agents, and maybe it's the right time to show how what you can achieve in that case inside Nuclia, inside our platform. And what we are going to do today is to show you how you can play and create ingest agents, because they are the first step on the pipeline. So Eric, maybe it's the right time to see agents in action. So if you take control of the screen, stage is yours.
Sure. So let me share my screen. All right, you should be able to see my knowledge box. So this knowledge box is entirely empty, and its purpose is to store support tickets about refrigerators, oven, or whatever kind of stuff like this. So imagine you have a customer support system where those tickets arrive, and you want to perform tasks on top of it. So what I'm gonna do first is show you the labeling I have been preparing. So appliance is distinguishing washing machine and fridge. And I have here for washing machine a list of possible problems. And my purpose here is to automatically define the proper labels for whatever ticket is arriving. And the ticket is just, a text, plain text written by the customer. So there is nothing more than that. And you want to classify to allow to support customer better. So I'm going to create an agent there, a labeler agent. So that's all the agent I can create right now. I'm going to start with the first one, labeler. And here I'm going to create one named type of appliance. It's going to run on future resources, and I'm going to use the label set appliance there. So I need to describe a bit what it is. It's super important to describe everything you are using there, because that's what the LLM going to use to understand what you want to do. So here I'm saying this is the kind of house appliance I'm considering. And then for each label, I do the same thing. So I'm going to say washing machine, while I'm going to explain what is the use case for this label. And I'm afraid it's going to be a bit short for you to see it entirely, but I'm going to say if the text is talking about a washing machine or anything related to washing machine. So that's the condition when I consider applying the label washing machine is relevant. And I'm going to do the same for fridge. I'm going to say if the text is related to about fridge or anything related to fridge. And that's what I need there. I'm going to activate this labeling. Done. It is there. And now I need to push content. So I have prepared a few tickets. Okay. And I got to add them there. So now you're going to take some time to process. First, there is the regular ingestion, where we are extracting the text, reading the title, the metadata and everything, indexing that into our semantic index, also the keyword indexing. All of that is taking place, but also our extra specific agent in charge of labeling the content. This is what is happening right now. So it takes a few seconds.
Yes, maybe while we are waiting, Eric just mentioned that when you create an agent, you can decide what LLM you want to use together with the agent. So
Absolutely.
Eric didn't cover this, but
I can show you that. Yeah, okay. Sure. Good point. So here, by default, we use ChatGPT 4o Mini. Why is that? Because it's one of the cheapest. Here, you should keep in mind that when applying the label, I will need the LLM to go through the entire document. So if it's a long one, it's a lot of token to be consumed, and probably it's better to use a cheap LLM. But you're free to use any LLM we are supporting, and as you can see, that's a long list. At Nuclia, we are trying to integrate all the most important and major LLM from public LLM available. So that's a long list. But yeah, so by default, we're using this one. You're free to use any one of them, of course. That's in this case, just to define if it's talking about a fridge or a washing machine, you probably don't need the smarter one. So much better to go with a small one. I don't know, maybe you want to add something about it, Theodore?
No, that's great, Eric. I just wanted to make clear that at ingestion time, when creating agents, you can decide the LLM, and it's an ever-growing list of LLMs that we keep adding. But yeah, you have to be careful about the LLM you select, because this is using tokens, so tokens is consumption.
Absolutely. Okay, it's done. So as you can see, all different content has been labeled automatically as being about fridge or washing machine, depending on the content. I can show you actually what the content is, because so this is this kind of stuff, right? Just someone describing the problem they had with a refrigerator, what basically happened to them. That's a typical customer support ticket. And we got this labeling done automatically. So that's a typical thing you can do with agent, but you can do much more, obviously. So in another step, I'm going to use the generator. So the generator there is able to generate some specific text based on a prompt, on a description of what you expect. I'm going to use it to get the description of the issue. So I'm going to call it main issue. Yeah, I'm going to run it on existing resource. I already have some. And I'm going to ask this simple task. Provide a short description of the main issue reported in this text. So you could consider it's interesting. Well, so let's run it before talking, because so same thing. I'm going to use this LLM. That's probably good enough, and just give a prefix is issue. So it's running. It's going to process my content. Yeah, generating something like this is a bit like a summary, but it's oriented. It's about, don't give me all the details, don't summarize the full thing, just focus on the issue. It could be useful for people managing the customer support. That's where you have a very, at a glance, you can see exactly what the problem is about, and you can continue with that. You can also consider using that at RAG level. When asking about something, you have those issues that can be retrieved with the matching content. So if a user is asking a question, you can go through all the existing problems that have been reported so far and use the issue description as a very valuable context to highlight why such or such answer is actually the proper thing to do for your case as a user, as a customer, I mean. So that's typically what it used for. The same would go with a summary, for example. So I'm just waiting to see if I get some. Not yet. It's taking some time. All right. You can also, and I will demo that just after that, generate structured content. Here it's about generating text, right? So a short text explaining what the issue is. That can be really used by human. It can be used by an LLM to at query time, but you might also want to automate other kind of stuff, extracting structured data. And I will give you an example after this. Oh yeah, I've got one here. The generated field issue is there. Okay, nothing yet. Sorry, I was too. Let's see. Yeah. So here I have my short description of the main issue there. 4 lines about what is the issue, and I'm gonna get that for all my different resources. Okay, so that's what I get. That's also pretty interesting. Now, the other case I wanted to demo, and let's have a look to the time. Oh, we are short on the time.
Yeah, we should be a bit fast, Eric.
Yeah. So let's keep this part because it's probably not. I will talk a bit about the graph extraction, where it's about extracting relation and between different concepts. I have here an example where we have a legal case that have been indexed, and we created an agent to extract the different concepts that are important there. So the plaintiff, the defendant, the judge, the plaintiff attorney, etc. And for each of them, we give a description. And more importantly, we give an example. Like typically, John Doe here going to be the plaintiff, here ABC Corporation going to be the defendant. We give few examples. As you see, only 3, and it's good enough. And we give example of the relation as well. And what we get as an output is those concepts has been identified, like the defense attorney have been identified, the defendant has been identified, and we can find them in the text that way automatically. That's the first step to then query the system according to those relations. I have more time, yeah?
Yeah, a couple of minutes, Eric, max.
Okay, so that's something which is very, very valuable because it extracts the very deep meaning of your content. Creating a knowledge graph from your content is extremely powerful, but then because then you can query that to extract the connection between your content plus the semantic matching you already have with Nuclia. And yeah, I see your question about querying that. For now, we don't have the ability to query that on production yet. We are working on it, but the extraction is ready, and that's what you see there. It can be pretty advanced. It can be very complex. As you see, we have also other kind of concept, which are the default one, and this is happening all the time with by default with Nuclia. If I go back to my own resources there, I should be able to see some of them. Yeah, product, for example, this is automatic. But in your specific business cases, probably you have some very specific concept, and that's where you need an agent to focus on that specifically. Maybe I should stop there, or?
Yeah, sure, Eric. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I was a bit long, sorry.
No, it's always interesting when you explain things, Eric, so that was great. So yeah, maybe we just give you an overview on what you can achieve with Nuclia. Some of the other agents that we have in production are also very, very interesting, but we didn't have enough time to cover all of them. We just wanted to explain that agents are something that are specific pieces of software to run specific tasks that can bring a lot of value to you. So let's give some room for Q&As. I don't know if some of you have a question that would like to ask us, or some comment, or something that it was not clear enough. So now it's the right time to ask.